days, yeah. Been a roll, yeah.
Who you get this style from? Because every time I see you, you like Phil Jack. You don't use no timeouts. I mean, what's going on? Where you get this style from? And I don't want to hear this uptown stuff because everybody uptown ain't fly there. Where you get this style from now?
I don't know. I think I've always been like a rule breaker. Right?
Ooh,
I've always
like
wanted to be a rule breaker.
Right.
Even when we were in Banneker in high school, they had a dress code. I broke it.
Right, yeah.
You know, we used to have this thing called a winter ball every year where the women had to wear, or the girls had to wear dresses and the boys would wear suits. And I showed up to my first winter ball in leather pants. And they didn't like it, but I got in.
Yeah,
so it's like I've always just had this notion that like I'm going to show up how I show up and whatever I feel like wearing. Like I'll wear this to Target. Like it doesn't matter where I'm going. I feel like you should put on what feels good to you.
Right. Where do we get the hat from? I got to have the hat. Where you
the
get the hat
hats
from?
are handmade by a woman, Ashaka Givens, out of New York. She makes these for me.
Shout out Shaka. Curtbone need one. Yeah, I need one, right? A little joint like that, right? Boy style, right? But your father and uncle, they knew what they knew, though. That's unique that they was, of course, they've been around and seen that, right? Sure. Because it was a lot of cars up Coolidge and Roosevelt Road and Dunbar with the hazard lights on. You know what I'm saying? But, you know what I'm saying? Well, you know, them girls down there, they was doing pickups and drive-bys, right? And that joint, right? So you had to run with Peaceaholics, with people who don't around the country don't know that's like a organization that's on. You can give them the definition.
Yeah, so Peaceaholics was a violence intervention organization. We mainly targeted like the most notorious crews in DC, and we would go into those neighborhoods and try to squash beefs, provide case management, outreach services. I actually came to Peaceaholics doing some outreach, but I mainly came to start a GED program for them. They had never had a GED program, so I started it, ran it, taught it to get some of the young men to get their GED while I was working for the organization.
Okay, and then a lot of your confidence, and you just so sure of yourself, even pre-Spice Girl and to Spice Girl, right? Do you relate that to your father and uncles and them, or just something that's in you?
Definitely not my father.
Okay.
But no, I think my uncles, you know, like being raised by men, I think makes you a different type of woman, right? Like I've seen how men can be in all its glory and all its detriment. Like I've seen both sides of it. And my uncles love me like a sister, right? So I always felt love from a man. So I wasn't ever looking for love from a man, right? Like I was surrounded by nothing but men who loved me deeply. And even now, you know, from the hoods that I've worked into, my boys from Oak Hill, my family from First and Kennedy, like they protect me. And so I had no choice but to feel confident that I was safe. And I think when women feel safe, we feel sexy. And so there was something about that safety and security that always made me feel confident that like I can do whatever I want to do, wear what I want to wear, go in any hood, like do anything.
Right. Yeah, that's unique. So when did Angel knew that she wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I didn't. It was an accident.
Accident?
Yeah, like I didn't, you know, I've told the story of opening the Spice Suite where I like, walked down the street and saw this random for lease sign in a window and decided that I would call and inquire about the price of the rent. And when I inquired, the landlord wanted to know what I would do with the space. And so I randomly just said a spice shop just to get him to engage in a conversation about numbers with me. And then that was almost 8 years ago. So I didn't know I wanted to do that then. And then, you know, a year or so ago, I bought the property that I'm in now and redeveloped it into a mini strip mall.
And that's an uptown skill set right there, because y'all got the gift of gab, right?
I've heard that before. I've heard that.
So that's what I was saying, right? So you getting the spices. What was the first recent was because you've been open, I guess, social and Google was out, but what made you step on the gas and stay right there, though? I know people try to talk you down on that, or you didn't share it with nobody, or what?
No, I shared it with people, you know, and I feel like I shared it with the right people. I shared it with the people who would question me, but not try to talk me out of it.
Okay.
And it's so interesting because when I think about that too, I think about how grateful I am that I have a tribe of friends who also believe that I can do anything, right? I think we spend so much time talking about like haters and, you know, people in your group that don't support you and love you. Like my friends love me so much and see things in me that I don't see. So it's like I say an idea and they're like, girl, what about this? And I'm like, true, right? Like I didn't even think I can go that hard, but they believe it for me. And so it starts to impact my own confidence and esteem and how I feel that I can go harder and bigger. Yeah.
Black and Forth.
Yes.
Explain that name.
So Black and Forth came about, I was doing interviews and early on, I would talk about my business model where I have these Spice Girls. They're not singers. They're just Black women who have their own businesses and they sell their products at my store. And in exchange, they have a space to regularly pop up and sell their products. And I have folks who, you know, quote unquote, work for me. So they work the register. And when I would do these early interviews, I would always describe it as me bartering. I would say I was bartering with Black women. And I got a call from the U.S. Department of Labor's legal department. And the guy was like, long story short, I heard you're bartering. We don't have anything on file that shows that you're bartering. That's a legal agreement between the IRS and your company. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, April Fools. I lied. I'm not bartering because I don't want to owe the IRS no money. I don't know what y'all talking about. Like, cut it. Yeah, let's just act like I didn't say that. And so he was like, you know what? I'm not trying to trip you up. Like, just tell me what you're doing. And so I told him what I was doing. And he was like, well, there, I think 4 or 5 different legal employment types as defined by the Department of Labor. And what you're doing doesn't fit in any. He's like, and I've been here a really long time and I've actually never heard of your business model. And at that point I was like, well, I need to coin it. Like I need to own it because I feel like if nobody knows about it, I need to claim ownership of it so that I can replicate it. And so I started to kind of internally call my model of going back and forth with Black business owners, Black and Forth. And I never said it out loud really because I hadn't owned it yet, right? Like until the ink dried on that little R with the circle around it to mean that I own that trademark, I was like, I'm gonna just keep it close. But when last year, when I decided to purchase a commercial property, I had to develop a real estate holding company. And I decided to name that real estate holding company Black and Forth. And then when DC zoned what I built as a strip mall, I had to name it something. And so I decided to name the strip mall Black and Forth. And so now Black and Forth means so many things.
Hey, that's unique. So you kind of like, you just got a good feel for stuff and you just get a feeling of power and you just push on it. And
regular uptown stuff.
Well, United States get used to this. Whenever you see right from uptown DC, right? So what mistakes you made in the beginning that you look back on?
I don't know that I've made a lot of mistakes in business, right? And I've honestly just become comfortable saying that because people will ask me that in interviews and I always felt like I had to say something because nobody's journey is perfect. And I didn't want to feel, seem arrogant. But I think what I realized too is that when you are doing things in alignment and you know how to pivot and you know how to implement systems, then the mistakes are so minute that they don't impact you in a way that they feel, like you are, like it's a struggle, right? Like there haven't been any real struggles. There's some little things that I've done, some spices I ain't get across the border. There's some, there's some things that I would have done differently. Some Spice Girls that I bought on that I probably kept a little longer than I should have, but nothing that was so impactful that it changed the course of my business. And I'm grateful for that. I think it means that I'm in the right place and doing what I'm supposed to do and I make good decisions. And that's something that I've owned that I should be proud of and not shy away from or feel like I'm bragging when I say it, because I think other business owners need to hear that other business owners can go on their journey without a whole lot of hiccups, right? We don't have to kiss a bunch of frogs first.
Yeah. Why is it important to you to highlight women entrepreneurs?
Because if not us, then who?
You don't think the men give y'all enough love?
Oh, absolutely. I love Black men deeply. And I think that you guys love us. No, I love Black men deeply. And I think you guys love us too. But I think it is important for me to highlight Black women in particular because there's so many myths about us. That we're catty and we don't work well together and we don't support each other. And it is important to me to dispel that myth because I'm very clear that Black women are the people who have helped to grow my business. They are 90% of my customer base. And so I owe that to us to support us at every step of my business. Every time my business elevates, I need to bring more of us along.
Because she spoke earlier, she said that you're a big fan of Angela Davis. When did that start? Because I feel her inspiration when you talk. When did that start?
I saw her speak when I was at Howard. She came to speak about her book, Our Prison System's Obsolete. Should the prison systems be obsolete? And when she spoke, she was supposed to speak for maybe like an hour and a half, and she ended up staying for hours. And it felt like a rally. Like it was supposed to be an author talk, but it just felt so inspirational. And at that time, both of my brothers had just gotten locked up. They hadn't been sentenced yet. And so I was really on this like go hard against the criminal justice system thing. I thought I was going to leave school and become a criminal psychologist. Like I just had all these plans for my life, and hearing her kind of sparked that for me because she asked the questions that people don't often ask. Like at that time in my life, I hadn't heard people talking about abolishing the criminal justice system. We talked about reform, but I'm like, I'm not here for reform. I'm here for dismantling it altogether. And to hear her speak so adamantly and so clearly and beautifully about it, I felt like I found my tribe.
That's crazy. And you said abolishing, and you support what you say. Because some people say stuff and they can't support their theory of what they say, because that's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? But they really don't stand behind, what they're saying.
Out the park, niggas know me. Curtbone, little homie. All days. Been a road.
Thank you for watching Changing Jewels on Curtbone TV. If you like the jewels that we're dropping, subscribe, hit the notification, and share with some friends. And I'll see you on the next episode of Changing Jewels, Curtbone TV.